Hi, this is Kathy Johnson, and for this year's holiday tutorial, I wanted to show you how you can make one of these Kusudama origami flower ornaments. And it's a variation of the Japanese Kusudama origami flower, which is made with 5 petals, but I'd like to do 6 petals because it's a little bit fuller. And then also what you can do is you can alternate the colors of the ornament if you want, since there's an even number of them. So I've got 3 different ones here, 3 different sizes that I've made, and this one here I just used some regular origami paper. You don't want anything too heavy, you just want kind of a lightweight paper. And for this one I used some decorative paper. It has a little bit of gold on it, which is really pretty, so I painted some gold paper to go with that to make this one. And then for this larger one here, I just used some heavyweight wrapping paper. So to get started, you would need 6 squares of paper. I'm using 6x6 origami paper here because it's a little bit bigger than what I would do for an ornament, but I wanted to be able to show you without having my fingers get in the way. Some of these, I think this was a 5x5, and this one was 4-inch square, and then this one was actually a little bit smaller, maybe 3¼ inch. So to get started, I will take my paper, and the first fold is just folding it into a triangle, making a diagonal fold. So bringing the bottom up to the top and meeting that point. And I bring my finger down here and then across and make a nice sharp crease. Then you want to bring this bottom point here up to the top point there. And then I will hold that there and then come down with my fingers and make a crease like that. So we're going to be making another square. Then you want to take the left point and bring it up to the top, doing the same thing, and you're going to be meeting that other piece right in the middle. So make a nice crease there. And I like to turn it over and really give it a good crease. So then the next step will be to take this inside edge here and line it up with that edge there. So I kind of turn it to make it a little bit easier to fold. So I kind of work the point in as I'm bringing the paper over and lining it up, because you want to get as nice sharp corner as you can, and then press that down. So that was just taking that inside edge, lining it up to the outside edge and creasing it. And I'm just going to turn it around and do the same thing to the other side, bringing this inside edge here out to line up with the outside edge. And again, I just kind of work with the point first to get that where I want it to be, and then I can start folding and give it a crease. And again, I'm just going to turn it over and make sure it's very well creased. Okay, then you're just going to take this flap over here and you want to open it up, and I'll put my finger down into it until you can just give it a little push like that. You're reversing the folds and you're kind of squashing it. And then crease that really well. And do the same thing on the other side. We're just going to open up this flap. And then just give it a squash. It should go pretty easily because it's following the fold lines of the folds that you've already made. So, and then I turn it over, make sure I crease it well. And then I like to fold these little triangle corners in because I'm going to tuck them on the inside. I don't want to see the other color of the paper that I have. So I'm going to do that. And then when I turn it back over, I'm just going to be tucking that inside there, opening up the other side and just tucking it in, and then just going back to where we were. So now I'm going to be taking this outside edge and bringing it over to meet that one. So we're just kind of folding right along that center line. Same thing over here. Take this edge, bring it over to that edge, folding on that middle fold line. And that's our first piece. So then we're going to be taking some glue and putting this together. But before I do that, I'll just go through this step one more time. So I'm starting with my square, bringing the tips together to make a diagonal fold and form a triangle. Bring that point up there to the middle so that you've got your fold line here along the middle. And bring this point up to match that point up there, and just kind of meeting that other fold in the middle. Give that a crease. Turn it over and make sure everything's creased well. I'm turning it back over. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did before, is just taking this outside, or excuse me, this inside edge and lining it up with the outside edge. It's usually a little bit easier if you turn it on its side like that, and kind of get the point to where you want it, lining up the outside edges, and then you can go ahead and make a crease. And then same thing on the other side. This edge here is going to be brought out to line up with the outside edge. Crease it. I'm turning it over too. Okay, then I'm just going to open up this right side flap here and kind of reverse those folds, and it should fold pretty easily. Just squash that open and crease that. Open up the other side. Bring that over till it opens up like that. You can squash fold that and turn it over. And I'm just going to bring these points, fold them over here, because those I'm going to tuck inside like I did on the last one. And when I turn it over, I'm just going to kind of just hide those in there. Just there. And now we're going to bring this edge here and to meet that edge. So we're just folding it in half along the middle crease line. And over here again, same thing, folding the outside edge to meet the inside one right along that middle fold. And then turn it over, just give it another crease there. And now that's our second piece. So I've got two here. I already have ones that I've made over here. So I have 4 more. I've already started to glue these. So I'll show you how I put these together. Just using some regular white glue, Elmer's glue is fine. This is some PVA glue I have in a little container here. And what you're going to do is just take a little bit of glue. You don't want to use too much, because if you use too much, it's going to take too long to dry, and you might, the pieces are going to move around a little bit. So I just put a little bit of glue on there, all the way down the outside edge. You don't have to go all the way inside here, just along the outside edge. And then fold it over and pinch it, line up the edges. Now, I've got some little quilt clips here that I can put on here to hold that in place while it dries. If you don't have any of these, you can always just use a paper clip. I'll do the paper clip on the next one. Okay, so again, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue along the edge here. Spread it out a little bit. Fold it to the inside. And I'm just going to put a paper clip on the top there and a paper clip on the bottom to hold it. So I'll just leave those like that until they're completely dry. So what we're going to be doing is taking all 6 of them and gluing them together. So I've got this one that I already glued. I generally will glue them in pairs and then go ahead and put the whole thing together. So I've got this pair glued together. So to take the next pair, I'm going to take a little bit of glue along the edge again. It really only needs to be along the outside edge. And I'm just lining up those edges. And again, I can either take a quilt clip or a paper clip to hold the top together and the bottom points together. So then I'll be waiting for that to dry. So then I'll have this one when it dries, and then when these two dry, I will do the same thing, put them together. Now that these two are dry, I'm going to go ahead and take the clips off, and I just give it a little bit of a squeeze to open that back up. A little squeeze. And then I'm going to glue those two together. And it doesn't really take very long for these to dry if you just use a nice thin layer of glue. I'm just lining up the edges, and again I'm going to clip it while it dries. Then when this one dries, I'll be gluing all three parts together. So the three pairs are glued and dry, so now we have to put these pairs together. So I'm going to just take a little bit of glue on this edge here. And add one of these other pairs. Now, unfortunately, you can't really clip these together, but if you just put a light coating of glue on there, it will dry pretty quickly. So I will usually just hold it in place until it's dry. Then I'll add the last piece. I'll put glue on both sides here, right there. Just kind of spread that out to a nice thin layer. And then add my third pair. And again, you just kind of have to hold that in place. I will line up the middle part there and the tips, and then just hold on to that until that dries. Okay, now we have the complete flower put together, and you can kind of see from the middle, no matter how careful you are, that really doesn't come out to a nice perfect circle in there. So what I like to do is add a button. So I find that the buttons that have a shank on them work a little bit better because it can fit right down into the hole that's there, and you can glue that in place. So I've got a few different ones here. Let's see what is going to look best with this one here. I've got a little white one. I think I kind of like that one. Let's try. I've got this other one. This one might be a little bit too big. Oh. It's okay, but I think I like this one best. So I will just take a little glue and put that around the outside edge and in the middle, so that when I push the shank of the button in, it's going to get some glue on it to help hold it in place. Okay, so then I would just let that dry. Now this one here was a little fabric button, and I just painted it pink so that it would stand out a little bit more. And then we're going to add a ribbon. To add the ribbon, I like to cut the piece ahead of time and glue it together at the bottom. This particular ribbon didn't want to take to the glue, so I ended up putting a little bit of tape on it to hold it together. It just makes it easier to insert because we're going to glue this into, I guess, about halfway, maybe a little bit closer to the top, and glue that in place there. So I'll just take some glue, and you can be pretty generous when you put the glue in for this, and then just kind of push that down in there and let that dry. So that will be the hanger for the ornament. Now on this one I did it a little bit differently. Most of these other ones are going to hang so that you're seeing the face of the ornament, and this one I have set up so that it hangs more as a dropper. Almost looks like a little tree ornament. If you wanted to see how I add these different embellishments like the beads and the bead caps, you can take a look at the tutorial that I did a couple of years ago for the German bell ornament, and I will link to that in the notes, and I go into much more detail about how you can go ahead and add those just for a little variation. Okay, so that's all finished there. Once that dries, I'll be ready to hang that, and I hope you'll have fun making your own flower ornaments, and happy holidays!